I'm really happy that you guys decided to join us today to talk about courageous marketing because honestly, we need more of it. And in the industry right now, it's becoming increasingly difficult to be courageous in the way that you communicate, the way that you market your brands, the kind of work that you do. And it's not so often that you get the opportunity to say that you've worked on programs that have truly been breakthrough and bold and changed marketplaces and changed brands and changed perceptions and changed the way that consumers feel and think and buy your brands. So I'm excited to, sorry, this microphone is a little caught in me. I'm excited to have a great group of business partners and true friends here today to talk to you about the kinds of programs that they've done in very different and disparate industries with very different kinds of challenges and share some of their insights and some of their thinking about what makes a bold program and when a bold program is the right way to go. So I'm just going to introduce you to my three friends, starting with Jay Sethi, Covergirl brand manager at Procter & Gamble, who has spent the last 24 hours analyzing my makeup. He approved the eye feature and no lips this morning, which was great. And in addition to being brilliant at commenting on beauty, Jay does incredible things on behalf of the brand in the world of social media and in the world of pop culture. Truly cutting edge work, and I think that paired with easy breezy, beautiful innovation has truly transformed the Covergirl brand and changed the way that we all think about a beautiful brand in the beauty industry. Ambre Morley, who is Director of Product Communications at Novo Nordisk and is one of the most fearless PR professionals that I know. And while she is always regulatorily compliant, and you guys will see that in her slides when she shows you the product information for the drugs that she's going to talk about, she always finds a way to get amazing programs off the ground in the pharmaceutical space and has done some really gutsy things in the world of RX marketing. And then Liz Metz, Director in North America for the Depend brand at Kimberly-Clark. And Liz is truly a master at driving innovation and integration through the programs that we do on behalf of the Depend brand. And she has absolutely flipped the switch on a category and a conversation, really in a category that's kind of impossible to talk about incontinence and impossible to talk about in a positive way. So she'll tell you a little bit about how they've kind of embraced their challenge and their place in society and are helping boomers kind of have a different kind of an experience and a different relationship with the Depend brand. I'm also really proud to say that the program that she's going to talk about today won the Sabre for Best Campaign of the Year and is being awarded as a top 50 PR program tonight at the dinner. So that's really exciting to have Liz here talking about that. So you can see that we have three people here with very different backgrounds, with very different perspectives, but they all really share a common belief, and that is that marketing mediocrity and middle ground just doesn't cut it. And they've really kind of built that into the way that they approach marketing for each of their brands in, again, very different kinds of companies. And this is unusual in today's world because in a world with so much uncertainty, so much political uncertainty, so much economic uncertainty, there's so much uncertainty in this world. I think most people and most companies tend to retreat or maybe run towards what's safe. And it's really incredible when you have marketers and communicators who are willing to kind of approach things in a different way and take the bull by the horns. Because when you are, I think, working in this uncertain environment, and you are taking risks, the spotlight is on you much more. And when the spotlight is on you much more, any kind of failure that you might have might be greater. And truly the spotlight can turn to you, and you can really lose your job. So in this uncertain world, when we have marketers who are willing to take risks and do things differently, and kind of approach their brands in unusual and different ways, and approach the media in unusual and different ways. I think it's really an exciting time for us. So I'm going to stop rambling right now and turn it over to Jay, who will fill you in a little bit on the Covergirl brand and history and some of the really exciting programs that they've done. Then we'll move on to Ambre and Liz, and then I'll ask them a couple of questions, and then hopefully you guys will be really interactive with us. They are gutsy marketers, so you can ask them gutsy questions. I bet you'll have gutsy answers. Thank you so much again for joining us.
Thanks, Diana. So Jay Sethi, and unfortunately for you today, I'm the face of Easy Breezy Beautiful Covergirl, but we'll get past that. There's a really cool story to tell here about Covergirl and how we went from turning crisis into creativity. The overarching campaign is called "This Is Not Your Mama's Covergirl," and I think as you see the work, you'll understand why that approach is so intentional. The first reality check was to understand what was happening with the business. And obviously, a couple of years back, we were in a steep decline, had been declining for 3 straight years, losing our initiative bundles. And these are good facts, but the first part of having guts in order to grow is to embrace the hard truths. And the hard truths were that, one, we weren't cool anymore. We had lost the ability to communicate effectively, especially with young millennials. And a lot of people, the good news is that people love still Covergirl. They love the idea of it, what it represented. People like Queen Latifah and Ellen DeGeneres, who we have on our roster. But they said, I don't pick you up. I don't actually buy you anymore. And so it was very clear to us that we weren't cool. Second, we couldn't keep up with the pace of news, and our products were outdated. The reality was that we had not innovated at the pace of our competitors, and that frankly, the innovation that we had was, again, kind of boring, not really breakthrough, not really changing the cosmetics landscape, and that's what Covergirl had always been known to do. And the last important point was our marketing model was inefficient and behind the times. It wasn't digitally centric, it wasn't socially and content centric. It was inefficient in the way we were buying the media. And frankly, I think we weren't giving our PR team enough room to really do what was possible. And so the challenge in front of us was, how do we turn an iconic brand and make it relevant for a new generation of consumers? So the first thing was the innovation stream. We had to get more fun, more young, introduce a lot more products. We had conventionally done really well with the mascaras of the world, the foundations of the world. But young people were using gloss just as much as traditional lip color. And so innovating in the right places, bringing more innovation that's fun, that's frankly socially centric, simply because the design is cooler and you might actually want to Instagram it versus some of the boring stuff that we had before, was going to be really, really critical. We say that's social search and store-backed design, because it's a really important thing to remember all 3 of those levers as you're designing initiatives. The next thing was to have advertising that gave the brand more edge. This was not easy to do because when we talked about signing Pink and now Katy Perry, people ask, is that easy breezy? Is that too far from what you've always been known as the blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl? Signing Janelle Monáe was the same question. I think we came back to Covergirl had to have broader shoulders. We had to reach new women. And easy breezy didn't have to mean blonde-haired, blue-eyed anymore. In fact, it needed not to mean that. And so signing some of these talents was really an important step for us to give us a little bit more edge. These women are a little bit more controversial. They're willing to buck the system, and that's a good thing. Then we looked at partnerships, and we said, how else can we reach new women? And the Hunger Games and NFL became 2 of our biggest partnerships of the year and have been tremendously successful. And the reason is because, again, they opened up the brand to a whole new generation of women or young girls that frankly wouldn't have been open to Covergirl if we hadn't done this partnership. And so another good lesson is unapologetically partner if you need to borrow equity at the time. It helped us a ton. And I'll give credit to Danae, who's sitting in the audience here. One of the things that you can do is look to the young leaders in the organization and ask them what's cool. She's the one who came up with nail gating. It wasn't the TV agency. It wasn't even the digital agency. It was our PR agency. And they were out there partying, and they knew this was an amazing way to reach 80 million women. And I think if you can embrace good insights from wherever they come, and you can acknowledge the hard truth, you can get some good results. The next part was content, and it had to be a change and a shift from TV and print content design to social design content. And that's changed everything. It changes our approach to the way we come up with ideas. It changes the approach to how we frankly fund projects, to our organizational model. There is not a single idea that we buy as a brand anymore that does not have a PR hook and a retail hook. Because without it, One, you don't drive the earned awareness that you need to deliver the sales gains that you need, and two, you don't get the customers, the Walmarts, the Targets of the world, really vested in your programs. And the results are great. The good news is that in less than a couple of years, we've been really able to turn this business around. Obviously, it's stiff competition and there's a lot of work to do, but we're really excited about the momentum. We're clear on our strategies, and Covergirl's got some room to grow. And with that, I'll turn it over.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ambre Morley from Novo Nordisk in Princeton, and my industry is completely different because I'm in the pharmaceutical space. So, whereas I would love to be able to go out, can you hear me? No audio? Oh, okay. How about now? Can you hear me now?
Nope.
No? Still can't?
You want to use mine?
Oh, I'll use this one. How about that? That's one thing that I'm going to talk about, agility, being able to adapt when you need to. So again, I'm Ambre Morley from Novo Nordisk in Princeton, and I represent one of the largest growing epidemics in this country, and it's diabetes. Novo Nordisk is the world's largest maker of diabetes product, and we're in an extremely crowded marketplace. So one of the things that we have to do is not just represent the company, but we have to represent the brands that we make. And it's challenging. And so as we were looking for opportunities to increase the presence of our brands in a very crowded marketplace, we definitely had to do two things. We did two things that I think you'll find, got it? Thank you. That I think both changed the landscape for our products. The first, this is one of the things that I have to deal with that my colleagues here that work for consumer companies don't, and this is the important safety information for the two products that we represent. And I don't want to make fun of this because it's serious. This is something that we have to deal with every single day. Is I'm not dealing with a product that you can just go out and buy. This is a product that's going to work on someone's life, and that they're being prescribed a prescription for, and that they have to take every day to manage their condition. So whereas we do PR programs to raise awareness, we still cannot underscore the importance that these are pharmaceutical products and that they do have serious risk and they also have serious benefits. So I'm not going to stay on this too long, but this is something that I have to consider with everything. So the first project I want to talk about is Charlie Kimball. Back in 2009, well, in 2008, we had this crazy idea to sponsor a race car driver that had diabetes. And whereas we'd heard about athletes that had had diabetes before, it was the first time that our company decided to make a move to sponsor this driver and to help increase awareness. Charlie was really kind of the ideal patient. He's completely physically fit. He was young. He had a good story about being diagnosed later in life. And we wanted to give him a platform to share that story. We've been sponsoring him for the past 5 years, and we've had tremendous success. We went from putting our logo on the car because he actually did use our products to now actually owning a race car team with one of the most successful race car owners in the league, Chip Ganassi. And we own Novo Nordisk Chip Ganassi Racing. Some of the things that we've been able to do with Charlie, which we're pretty recognized for, is we started the first pharmaceutical branded Twitter page back in 2009. And to this day, I believe it remains the only page on Twitter that promotes a pharmaceutical product. There are other pharmaceutical companies that have Twitter pages, but they don't engage people and really talk about the products that they use. And so that's been something that we did 4 years ago and we're still going strong with. Another thing that we've done with this Race with Insulin program is we've done a lot of on-site track activation with Charlie, where people have been encouraged to talk to their doctor, not just about Novolog, but about the pen that he uses. It's a pre-filled insulin device called a Flex pen, and Charlie uses it every day. He's not on an insulin pump, and we've increased the number of people who've gone to their doctor who've actually taken a pledge to do so by about 500% of our goal. And this program, again, we're so proud of because as this is World Diabetes Month and tomorrow is actually World Diabetes Day, Charlie's in Indianapolis right now doing a satellite media tour with about 30 media outlets, I want to say, continuing to spread his story and to talk about, diabetes awareness. And it's been something that we've been extremely proud of. Our next one you might have heard about, unless you've kind of been under a rock, is Paula Deen. And so we started something with Paula Deen called Diabetes in a New Light. And in full candor, when we first approached Paula about changing her recipes to be diabetes friendly, we didn't even know that she had diabetes. And once we found out that she had diabetes and was taking our products, it shifted what we decided to do with her, because you have Charlie, who is the idea diabetes patient. If you want to say diet, exercise, take your medication every day, and then you have a whole group of people with type 2 diabetes, which is the largest growing segment of diabetes in this country, who may be in denial, who don't know how to change their eating habits, who don't want to exercise, who need additional help, and who might not find motivation in Charlie. They did indeed find motivation in Paula, because she represented the everyday struggle that people with type 2 diabetes have. And they were completely different programs, so much so that we couldn't even compare them to each other because of the magnitude of the differences of the type of people that we were trying to reach. So with Diabetes in a New Light, the underlying goal of it was to encourage people to change their eating habits and then to go to their doctors and ask for the product that Paula was on. And in one word or two words, it worked. Because this was a PR program that we created that wasn't necessarily for the media. And so we got positive media coverage, we got negative media coverage, and then we got media coverage in between. But at the end of the day, Paula Deen did more to reach people with type 2 diabetes than any other marketing program that we possibly could have done. So you look at the media impressions and you look at the ensuing controversy around it. At the end of the day, when we look at the people that we wanted to reach with type 2 diabetes, it remains something that we're extremely proud of as a company. So when you look at what we've learned from these two very different and both highly successful programs at Novo Nordisk, there are three things. If you need to meet your audience where they are. Understand what it is that people want. With Charlie's program, we targeted young kids and we targeted people newly diagnosed with diabetes with an aspirational goal of you can do whatever you want to do with type 1 diabetes and that it doesn't have to slow you down. With Paula Deen, we targeted people where they were, people who were in denial, people who didn't know how to change their eating habits, who didn't want to exercise, because she appealed to those people. And we found a way to reach both audiences in very different ways and still be successful. Next, to reap the big rewards, you have to take the risk. If success was easy, everybody would be successful and every program would be successful. So sometimes you have to go outside of your comfort zone and do things that might not always, be as easy or as comfortable as you want them to be, but just make sure that you've had the right conversations and you've done the right research, and then go for it. And finally, if you do take that risk, you have to be prepared for the success, which is great, but also be prepared to manage the consequences of those risks or the controversy surrounded by those risks, and just make sure that you keep all lines of communication open and that you're engaging not only your employees, but engaging your constituents and engaging your consumers, and keeping the lines of communication open and being open and honest and prepared to deal with whatever comes your way. Thank you.
Thanks, Ambre. Well, as Diana promised, we're going to shift gears again and talk about something completely different. And I work for Kimberly-Clark, as she says, and run the Depend business for North America. And we're going to talk about what most people affectionately call adult diapers. And this program, we really ran after what we knew was the public stigma around the category. And in 2012, we were getting ready to launch probably one of our biggest innovations in the last 10 years. And we called it Real Fit and Silhouette. And these are underwear that really changed the category and changed the way people were interacting with our brand. But we realized when we did the testing that we couldn't talk about it the way we'd always talked about it. Because when we did, we got feedback from consumers to say, yeah, we've heard that before. People have told us these are just like underwear, we're not buying it. It doesn't make sense to us. But when we actually went out and tested with consumers with this new product form and they wore the product, they realized immediately this huge benefit. And they came screaming back. And it's a pretty rare occurrence in our industry because we do a lot of testing of new products. And most of the time what you promise and after the use experience, most people's purchase interest drops a little bit, just as a standard expectation. But for the first time in many, many years, we actually saw purchase interest go through the roof after a use experience with this product form. And so that was the ticket.
Yeah.
And what we said is we really need to create a program and an idea to bring this to market that really does that with the consumer. And we called it the Great American Try-On. And really proud of the results because what we saw happening is when we got celebrity involved and said, this is so much like real underwear that we're going to invite the entire Americas and Canadians to try this product on and be bold and say, it doesn't matter, you don't have to have incontinence, just try it on. You're going to be amazed at the fit, look, and feel of this product form. And we got involved with celebrity. You see Lisa Rinna on the screen here, and asked her to wear a very form-fitting dress and walk the red carpet in the product, and she did just that, and Harry was quite impressed, if any of you saw the commercials. And then we also got some NFL players involved, Clay Matthews, DeMarcus Ware, and Wes Welker, and invited them to wear it underneath their form-fitting clothes. Most women in the audience would say, yeah, that's a pretty big torture test. And what they told us is, number one, they forgot they had it on. Number two, they were amazed at just how comfortable the product was, and they really weren't outed. There'd be no way anybody would know unless they told them that they were wearing the product for them. And it was such a unique approach in the category that it generated a ton of buzz. And much like Jay, there isn't a single program we run anymore that doesn't have all elements of success woven into how we bring it to market. So it has to work in retail, it has to work digitally, it has to work with PR, it has to work on TV. And if it doesn't work in all of those areas, it's not workable because we can't afford to go after this with multiple lenses and different messages. And we were very, very successful. You can see some of the numbers up there. We actually turned around a share decline over the last 4 years and made it a huge share gain in the marketplace. We actually increased web traffic to our site by 150%. But astoundingly, which is exactly what we set out to do, we increased sampling by 720% with these product forms. And what we knew is once people tried it, they loved it. And it started to generate all this buzz. First of all, people were shocked that we went on TV and actually told them to try on the products. And surprising to me, when we did the dress drop and the jeans pull-up for men, we got a lot of pushback from network television, which is quite shocking when I look at what they show on TV every night. I just don't get where this double standard comes in. But people took notice, and they drove traffic. We got 1.5 billion and counting PR impressions out of the program, and loved it. We got a lot of response from our retailers, grew market share considerably year over year, including sales. None of it really makes any difference at all, right? Because we all work for corporations that are held dutiful to our shareholders, and it doesn't really matter unless we're driving that end bullet point, which is an increase in sales and an increase in share in the marketplace. So very proud of the program. It generated a lot of awareness and talk. Won not just the Sabre Award for tonight, which is amazing. It also won 4 Effies in the marketing side of the organization. So very proud of what the team has done. We actually went even further on the second year of the launch. And as Jay mentioned, it's important to make sure we're integrating with our retail partners. And we said, we're going to extend the try-on. And we asked new people to get involved. You guys might have seen Cheryl Burke in her tight-fitting dress wearing the product on the dance floor. She told us after the day of shooting, she's like, I can't believe I'm still wearing this. It's so comfortable. I forgot I had it on. In addition, we asked all of our retailers, do you have celebrities that you work with that you'd like to invite to try the product on, that we could run special retail programming in your marketplace? And we had Walmart invite Mary Lou Retton and did some work with her. We had Target invite the Ganassi race team, and we did some shoots with them. So this program has had such unique perspective and such broad reach. It's generated just a ton of response.
Yeah. Liz, I'm actually going to continue with your story for a second. Earned media and social media are often the biggest wild cards in all of the programs, in all integrated programs, because you don't control the message. And for Depend, that is often made fun of on late night talk shows. That's the kind of press that we used to get for the product. So how did you manage the critique, and kind of what was the approach that we took to kind of drive a different story for the brand and kind of manage that issue?
Yeah, it's a great question because we've been and continue to be at times the butt of jokes on Saturday Night Live and in social media spaces and things like that. And we said, working with our MMC partners, so Paris and Marissa were great partners in this. And we said, how do we actually, instead of running away from that and fearing it, how do we run right at it?
Right.
How do we take it on and play in that space in a way that lets us kind of manage how the joke plays? And we did just that. Worked with the team. They wrote some materials. We approached Jimmy Kimmel. He agreed. He thought the spot was fantastic. It kind of built off of our commercial program with the football players, and really kind of created a spot that was fun and late night worthy, but still on target with the program. And again, just generated this crazy amount of positive buzz.
For all of you, when you've presented these programs to senior management, or even this shift, Jay, in the way that you kind of are going to approach the brand and you need to approach the brand, how did they respond, and what kind of hurdles did you face?
Yeah, I mean, at P&G, obviously, it's a somewhat conservative company. And so there was, I think, half the leadership that was cautious and wanted to see testing and wanted to know, is this going to work in advance? And I think the other half of the leadership, and who we very quickly chose to align ourselves with, saw that this was a very smart strategic plan, and that they were willing to let us take some early risks. Mm-hmm. And with the early risks, we were able to show some early rewards. And so that's my biggest lesson through this, has been find the courageous leaders at the senior management level who are willing to take that leap with you.
And only talk to them?
Try to talk to them more, take a few early risks, show some wins, and then it steamrolls from there. Yeah. To be perfectly frank, like, one of the things that I love about what we've done is, at the beginning, people are asking me, well, what's the proof? How are you going to make this happen? How do we know it's going to work? After we got started, I have never once been asked to prove any of it. Not once. And that's at P&G. Not a test result, not a campaign result, because they see the sales, they see the equity scores, and that's sufficient. And I think once you're on a roll, and frankly, this is where PR can have a magnificent part of a campaign, once they're hearing from external sources how great everything is, of course they're happy, because it makes them look good too.
Ambre, any thoughts on, this is a global conference, global brands, a global company. Your company is not headquartered in the US. Thoughts on kind of the global response to some of the programs? You're working with very American, iconic patients, and how you kind of overcame any issues or kind of addressed any questions.
Well, my company is based in Copenhagen, and we are the U.S. affiliate, and one thing that I'm very proud of is that they let the affiliates run their own business. But I'd be remiss if I didn't say there were a lot of scratching of heads, if you will, when we announced our campaign with Paula Deen. But one thing that they looked at over the course of the past couple of years is that you have to understand your markets. And one of the things that we told them when we were doing kind of the roadshow of why we're doing this program is that it's going to touch a very different type of patient than, say, the race car program that we do, or say a print ad, or say a television commercial. And it goes back to taking it where you have to go where your patients are, where your consumer is, and make sure that you're creating content that they're going to relate to. But you also have to be prepared for the questions and for the risk, because something as big as the Paula Deen campaign, it went global. We were getting questions from our colleagues in South Africa. We were getting questions from people in India of what's going on over there? Why is this such a big deal? And you have to be prepared with full plans and full crisis communications and full Q&As of why this matters to our market, and why you have to just give us some time, if you will, to prove the value. And once you do that, then the questions subside.
Mm-hmm. So for all of you, how did you so successfully connect, gutsy and bold ideas to the values and the personality of your brand and your consumers?
I think that one starts, hopefully, with all of us in the same place, which is when you know you're doing the right thing for the consumer, it's an easy sell. Because once you connect with the consumer and you actually motivate behavior, which is the only way you drive the results we've been talking about, you're on the right path. And sometimes it might take a little bit longer for the organization to get there, but usually the consumer is pretty wise, and they vote with their dollars, and then you've hit it right on the spot. So I think guts is really the pursuit of great things, and making sure that you know what you're chasing, and you know that it's grounded in the right place. And then with that, it's really hard to get resistance from people that are, kind of postulating.
And one thing that both of them hit on is that none of us did our PR in a vacuum. All of these programs were completely integrated, and they touch on everything. Whereas they get television and consumer ads, I had to make sure that all of my campaigns were completely integrated with our brand teams, and that they could pull them through, and that they could see the value. Because if we don't show the value, and if we didn't bring a measurable ROI on these programs, then we wouldn't be able to do them.
And this is what's great about social media. I mean, you can see it every day. All you have to do is check your Twitter feed, your Instagram feed, what's happening on Facebook, and you're getting that real-time response. One of the things that I love was that we were very intentional reaching millennials. That was the goal. And so there were times when some of our older consumers didn't like what we were doing. That was okay. That was actually the point. And through new forms of media, especially social media, you can reach one group differently, just as everyone here has done, and it's okay. That's good for the equity, and you can see that response immediately.
What's the gutsiest thing that you've done in the social media space for Covergirl?
The first thing I did, which was I came on the job and I looked at our community management, so our social media presence. And at P&G, Covergirl was #1. Everyone's like, it's amazing, don't change anything, just keep going. But then I looked at our competitors, and in fact, we weren't #1. We were losing.
You were #1 within your own
We were #1 within P&G, and at P&G that was great. Everyone was happy, and I started to dig in and understand why. And it was because if you looked at a chart from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., our engagement was either at our competitive level or better. So everyone was thrilled. The problem was if you looked after 5 p.m. And on the weekends, we dropped dead. And it was because our person went home. They were employed by P&G, and they lived in Cincinnati, and they went home. And I went to management with that, and they were obviously shocked. And it took 2 months, but with that simple chart, they were able to understand why it was so important to move the business away from inside of P&G to our partners at MMC, and to hire then someone with an editorial background who could actually speak to the millennials in a way that they wanted to be spoken to at the hours that they were going to be spoken to. And frankly, we're a brand of pop culture and celebrities. They're sleeping at 8 a.m. They're out at night and on the weekends. And so it was a gutsy thing to do because I had to do it right away. Yeah. And I had no proof that it would work, and I had no momentum at that point. But it set the course for all the changes that we were going to make moving forward. And I think it also empowered our agency to see themselves as more of a leadership, in the leadership role within the group.
So before I open it up for the audience to ask a couple of questions, anybody want to share anything about what we can expect next from some of these brands?
I have a little fun fact.
Okay. All right.
Any Howard Stern fans in the audience? Anybody? No? No?
We went from porn to Howard Stern.
So Howard Stern, for those that listen, has recently been chatting quite a lot about the fact that he suffers from a little urine leakage. And he's been dealing with it for some time and using things like wadded up toilet paper and paper towels in his underwear. And for those of you that might have been paying attention to some sports channels this year, we actually launched some new product forms that look like athletic cups that go in men's underwear for just this purpose. We call it men's guards and shields. Shields lighter for drips and dribbles, and guards for a little bit larger surges. So different product forms, but all in man speak. And then we launched that product with Tony Saragusa, and he built a guy a man cave under his sink in his bathroom and said, it's time for you to take back your space and use a product for a man. And Tony got in on the act with us. He's actually a good friend of Howard's, and they've chatted on a few occasions and sent him some products on our behalf and said, you know what, Howard, toilet paper and paper towel, it doesn't have to look like that. And here's some products designed just for you. And Howard tried them, and he said, they really worked well. He loved them, but he just can't get over the fact that his wife, and he's talking about it on radio, so I don't know what the secret is, but he's worried about his wife finding out. And so anyway, we've been working with Paris and with Marissa at MNC and saying, how do we break through with Howard? Howard's an example of a consumer out there. Actually, 1 in 6 men suffer from some form of leakage, and many of them have the same kind of kind of hesitation that Howard had and was verbalizing on a show. And they came up with a great audio file campaign in partnership with our creative agency, and it hasn't played yet, but it should. But it kind of hits head on with Howard's message, and really we just said, it's time for you to kind of own up to this, and it's not as, your friend has served you well, it's time for you to serve him well and guard his manhood. And so it's a lot of fun, but it's an example of how a brand, if you don't play back, you can just become a victim of a cycle, or become a butt of a joke, or let it play out without a voice, which is actually quite a shame in today's world. Social is alive, and you have to be ready to play whenever those opportunities present themselves. So hopefully, if you are a Howard Stern fan, in the next few weeks, you'll hear our response back.
That's exciting.
And,
I won't hear it live.
I do want to tell people, just so that if they want, in the spirit of opening up in social media and losing control, part of our team is at the Katy Perry shoot today, and she will be actually taking over our Instagram account in the next couple of hours. And so the first time we've actually been able to truly just relinquish control and let her have at it. So we're excited about that. Hopefully it works.
I think it will.
I think it will.
Something tells me it will. Okay, any questions from the audience? Yes.
My question is about the Race for Insulin campaign. You mentioned that that's the only type of campaign that you've seen like that, and I think one of the reasons is because in big pharma there's a lot of compliance risk. So I'm curious how you've managed that risk and if you've had any problems come up.
Oh, absolutely. It's that's the main reason why I showed the important safety information before. It's extremely hard. I mean, just to do something as simple as Twitter, because Charlie actually tweets himself, and so to get the approval for him to actually be able to tweet and to go through our regulatory process, we have a promotional review board, and they don't review his tweets, but we had to give him a certain level of trust that he knew what not to say and what to say, and not to make any unfair claims about the product as it relates to his diabetes. We've run into a number of ways, because just on the Twitter account alone, it's part of one of the reasons why we don't do Facebook, because Facebook is an opportunity where people could type whatever they wanted and inadvertently type a problem about the product that we may or may not see within the 24-hour period that we're supposed to report it to the authorities. So it's a lot of risk associated with talking about a brand online and in social media, and I'm extremely envious to my colleagues here about being able to expand in those categories, and it's just something that we have not been able to do. So we're still waiting on guidance from the FDA around how we can engage in social media from a product standpoint, and we're taking little steps. MMC has been involved with us from the beginning in trying to do things differently and trying to expand. I think we might be able to do something on Instagram. It'd be great to be able to do a few things in Pinterest, which we're looking for. But again, without a true set of guidance from the FDA, we're kind of, crawling before we walk. But we've been doing it since 2009 now, and, knock on whatever, we've been okay. But we do have constant, contact with the FDA, and we have a good legal, medical, and regulatory team who goes to a lot of conferences, who ask a lot of questions, and so far we've been pretty good. But we keep the risk, front and center at all times. Over there.
My question is for Liz. In addition to just keeping your ear out and listening for celebrities that may or may not need your product, I represent a company, or we represent a company that is in the dialysis space. Was there anything else that you guys were doing to source these potential spokespeople for your product?
Source people from a different
Source people that would be potential spokespeople for your product.
Yeah, actually, when we are looking for spokespeople for our products, we really work, quite frankly, directly with our team at MMC and really filter who we would consider and why. We actually go through a very arduous process and make sure that we know that they're going to be a good fit. And but we also are looking for somebody who has resonance and breakthrough with our consumer target. And so it's actually a pretty involved process, and involves filtering outreach, questions, and then a lot of face-to-face conversations, at the end to make sure that they're going to be a good fit.
Yeah.
And there are some risk in all of that, right? The minute you involve celebrity, oftentimes they become a spokesperson to a degree of the brand, which works well, but also can come with its own flavor. And so that's why it's such an important thing to make the right choice. And we do spend a lot of time focusing on the right choice.
Yeah, I think also we'll never take somebody on without a face-to-face meeting, for a whole variety of reasons, but particularly in a very sensitive area like that, you really want to make sure that people believe in the product and kind of believe in the cause, and can truly speak authentically to it.
Sorry, I guess my question was more along the lines, since it's a sensitive topic, sourcing the individuals in the first place as opposed to...
Oh, got it. Yeah, actually, that is a pretty tough thing. What we found in our sourcing process is we're kind of blind outreaching. It's a lot like our consumer base. You don't know by looking at a person, what their story is and what they might be dealing with. But oftentimes we reach out. We do provide information about what the brand is and what we're trying to do and the message that we're leading with, and we hope to have a discussion either with the person directly or their agent that can convey the amount of passion and really the good that they bring to people. And with that, oftentimes there's breakthrough. And often what we realize when we meet with them face to face is they have a personal story. The statistics are actually in my favor that way. 1 in 3 women, 1 in 6 men over 18 are actually dealing with some form of leakage or urine incontinence. And so the odds are pretty much in my favor that most of the people we reach out to know somebody or are somebody that have dealt with the problem themselves. And I think, as Diana said, but that doesn't mean everybody is the right fit to talk about it, right? Because when they're put in the hot seat on the Today Show, we had people interviewed on Today, the Huffington Post, they're going to be hit up with some pretty tough questions. And they're going to have to be able to field those questions and respond in a way that's authentic and true to themselves, but also true to our brand. And so that's an important part of the dialogue. But often at the end of the day, we don't know it at the beginning, but there's often a personal connection. My brother, my uncle had prostate surgery. My mother, you just don't know.
I think we have time for one more question, if there is. Jen? I can, but he's coming with the microphone.
Hi there. My question is for Jay. And when you take such an iconic brand that's so well known, were there special steps that you had to take with your retail partners in terms of new positioning and broadening what Covergirl's about?
Yeah, it's a great question. Our retail partners were frankly clamoring for a modern Covergirl. And so I think the first thing we had to do is just, one thing is to share the strategy. Another thing for the retailers is to see the activities and see the people that you were going to bring on. And so we've taken them for the ride, I think is the best way to describe it. I think early on they wanted to believe in the change, but they were skeptical. And I think with Do Right, they were skeptical because frankly the results hadn't been there. But then over time, each little win started gaining momentum. And small things, taking them to the Pink concert and letting them experience her in a different light was really, really helpful. Sending them, we send press kits, obviously, to the best influencers in the world. But we never actually sent our press kits to the retailers. And now that's something that we do so that when we launch an initiative, they get that sense of excitement in the same way that the Vogue editor might get that sense of excitement. And I think those small changes have really helped. And then the sales impact. Once you've seen the steady sales growth, they're all in. They're just asking, how big can I go? I think the best example of that is the Hunger Games, where I have never seen retailers respond so positively to a campaign and then ask us, how can I uniquely own it? And when they're asking you that question, you've got momentum.
Thank you so much for your audience. We really appreciated it, and we hope that you guys can do lots of gutsy things in the next year, and we'll see you here next year. Thank you.